So it is exam season at medical school. This is your first year potentially, and you have a mountain of work to try and get through and learn in order to try and do well in your exams. How should you approach this? Please keep watching this video to learn about how I approach this when faced with the same difficult situation and dilemma that you are currently in. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be talking about how to effectively revise during revision periods for upcoming exams in medical school. This also applies to other subjects and even A-level students, but it's been tailored specifically for medical students because the volume of work that one needs to go through and digest for medical school exams, for those that are currently passing through it or who have passed through it, they will be very familiar with the mountains and piles of notes that usually greet one at the beginning of a revision period. The first thing to remember is you need to be aware of your own limitations. You need to understand what has worked for you in the past, and there is not one single way to try and approach these things. However, the discussion I'm about to have today is what worked for me, and aspects of this or this approach in its entirety may very well work for you. It's a case of trial and error and finding what works for you. The way I used to structure my days, particularly 3 to 4 weeks prior to an exam, where the revision was at its maximum output, was a 5-5-2 approach. So that's 5 hours in the initial aspect of the morning, roughly between 7 a.m. and 12 midday, then 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. so that's another 5 hours, and then a couple of hours in the evening. I found this approach worked well for me because it allowed me to digest a wide variety and a significant volume of work in a short period of time, because it allowed me not only repetition but spaced repetition. Other reasons why I was for the approach of a prolonged revision session as opposed to a 20-minute period of work and this then being followed by a break of anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes was because I found that if I got to grips with a particular problem or a concept, I wanted to reinforce it and go over it a few times in order to try and cement it in my mind. So for example, if you are performing a calculation and you get to grips with how that calculation works, I found that if I left that calculation, went for a break for about 10 minutes and came back, I may not necessarily have that momentum to continue to practice a few more of those types of problems. Rather, for me personally, if I sat there for an extended period of time and reinforced that concept, I found that it tended to stick better. The analogy I can give you with respect to this is if you are playing sport and you are practicing a free kick, if you get the hang of taking a free kick in a particular way, the mindset that I would have would be to continue practicing it in order to fully cement the mechanical aspects and in order to build the motor memory for how to perform that act. If after taking 10 free kicks I took a break for about half an hour then went back to it, again I would find that potentially the momentum would not be there to the same degree compared to if I had just continued. You need to find somewhere within your environment, whether that be at home or whether that be in the library, that is a place where you can go, where you'll feel relaxed, where you'll be free of distractions, where you can sit down and really begin working. It's important to limit distractions as much as possible. So distractions can be either distractions that you take with you, which unfortunately includes your mobile phone, so either keep it in your bag and turn it off or turn it onto flight mode and resist the temptation to look at your phone. So as I've touched upon, personally I did not believe in the taking very regular breaks approach, because in my mind I knew that at 7 a.m. during a revision period I would be sat down to work and I would be getting up at approximately midday. So that was 2 points that were very set within my mind. Similarly, the same applied for my afternoon session and my evening session. So I had 6 points in the day that were fixed, and I knew that 3 of those involved me sitting down to begin working, and 3 of those involved me getting up and completing that session. This would be in contrast to me taking 2 breaks potentially every hour after a 20-minute work period. So the components of me sitting down and getting up would be vastly multiplied over a 5-hour session alone, let alone a 5-hour session followed by another 5-hour session followed by a 2-hour session. The evening revision slot of approximately an hour or 2 I would tend to leave as being a period of the day in which I could do some light reading and perform spaced repetition to try and reinforce concepts and even sit down and memorize facts that I knew were important. The other thing I would stress is, in this evening period, continue with your normal leisure activities and sports, etc., and also continue to see your family and friends, because they will help to keep you sane through such a stressful period. So as with everything, preparation is always the fundamentally important aspect of anything. So again, during this light evening period, plan out your activities for the following day, i.e. what topics do you plan to cover during the 2 5-hour revision periods, and what spaced repetition tasks do you intend to fulfill during your evening session for the following day. This essentially ensures that you go to bed having a game plan and you can hit the ground running the following day, as opposed to wasting time trying to decide what to do. Better still would be to have a game plan, not for the following day alone, but for 2 to 3 days in advance. This would improve your efficiency and potentially your productivity, because it would mean that you could cover chunks of work together over a 2 to 3 day period, and then you could think about planning the next 2 to 3 day period, as opposed to doing it daily, which may become frustrating to yourself. The thing that you need to ensure that you do is have all of your resources available, such as books, lecture notes and websites, etc. During periods of active revision and studying, I like to sit down with a plentiful supply of fluid and also light snacks such as nuts. If you're an Asian individual watching this, then you'll be aware that it's every Asian household's complete recommendation that almonds are consumed on a regular basis to try and boost brain power. That being said, I do find almonds quite tasty, so I do tend to nibble on those a fair amount during my study periods. So as I said, my sessions would be 2 big 5-hour sessions, so 10 hours in total, and the only time I would generally tend to get up from these sessions were if my back started to hurt, if I needed a toilet break, or if I ran out of fluids. For me personally, this was a very efficient way of studying. However, others may have a different opinion. This is what makes us all great as individuals, because we have different methods of doing things, and there is not a fixed method to try and achieve a certain outcome. So as well as minimizing distractions that are directly within your control, such as your mobile phone for example, it's also important to try and minimize the external distractions around you, such as external noise. A funny thing that happened to me in medical school, At one point, I think I was in second year, I was so distracted by the external noises that were going on around me, including building work being carried out by neighbours. I purchased some industrial sound protecting headphones because I find that studying in complete silence works very well for me. Hence, I went to such great measures. However, more recently, some great products have come onto the market that noise cancel for you. So I do now have one of these products, the Bose noise cancelling headphones, which are and have been an absolute game changer for myself. Research has also shown that quiet is the best approach when it comes to studying. However, I do appreciate that some individuals find that listening to music helps them to concentrate, and I do, and some of my best friends actually use this approach and it worked well for them. The thing that I tended to do at medical school was I approached several different specialities and systems in the same day, just to keep things varied and interesting. So if in the morning I covered several hematology topics, in the afternoon I would ensure that I covered cardiology, for example. Some of my friends were different, so what they did was they would cover all of cardiology first before moving on to hematology, etc. I found that breaking a larger topic or system down into multiple smaller topics worked very well for me in terms of trying to understand how everything fitted together. Final thing to mention is, depending on how best you work, you can split the 5-hour times 2 revision periods accordingly. So if you know that roughly it takes you 2 hours or so to get through one lecture, then you can say roughly I will do 2.5 lectures per 5-hour session. Alternatively, you can say I will work on a certain number of topics that I will try to cover each day. Again, it's down to you and what works best for you. The key thing with all of this is that everything should feel natural. Everything should feel as though you want to continue to revise, and you should give yourself plenty of rewards at the end of the day if you have put in basically a huge revision shift. Routine is key. However, routines differ significantly from one individual to another. It is important to be yourself. Do not judge yourself and compare yourself to others. Just try your best. Thank you for watching this video about how to revise for medical school exams. You can pack in a significant number of hours of revision into a day whilst maintaining all of your other interests. You just have to be smart and cute about how you do it. Learning and education should be fun. You're in a very privileged position being at medical school and being able to sit these exams. Some people would die to be in the position that you are in. So enjoy it and own it and do well. Thank you so much for watching. If you have found this video useful, please do share, like and subscribe. Until the next time, thank you. Good luck for your exams.